Chapter 1. On our wedding anniversary, I had prepared a grand celebration, but Su Menglin was called away by a phone call, without explanation. I threw away the cake, poured out the food, tossed the prepared gift into the trash, and sat on the sofa smoking all night. The next morning, Su Menglin's childhood sweetheart posted on Weibo, flaunting, "With you, even plain tea and simple meals are happiness." In the photo, the two were holding hands on the balcony, watching the sunrise. I didn't question it, just gently swiped past the screen, as if nothing existed. Perhaps realizing something was amiss, a few minutes later, Su Menglin called, explaining herself frantically. "He suddenly had something come up last night. I'll definitely make it up to you." I cut her off, a sarcastic smile playing on my lips. "Don't worry, it's just a contract marriage anyway. Maybe this marriage should end." The contract marriage was her request. I loved her, but love can be worn away. From today on, I will cut off all the past, including her. When Su Menglin returned home, it was already 2 days later. In the past, I would have prepared gifts and flowers, and I would have fussed over her, catering to her every whim, trying to win back her heart. But this time, I didn't even ask. Su Menglin sent a message. "I'm home. I'm exhausted. Come pick me up." I was playing on my phone and casually replied, "I'm busy." Within minutes, Su Menglin entered the house in her high heels. Rubbing her sore feet, she said to me, "Honey, let's go out to eat. I'm hungry." Was this an alternative way of giving in? In the past, I would have rushed to give her a warm hug, eager to put all her favorite foods in front of her. Now I didn't even lift my head. "Sorry, I'm not free. Go out to eat by yourself or order takeout." Su Menglin stared at me in disbelief, noticing that I was still engrossed in my phone. Her expression froze, and she knew she was in the wrong, so she didn't throw a tantrum. "I know you're still angry, but don't be petty. Song Chung was injured. I needed to take care of him. I told you, I'll make it up to you for the anniversary." I was too lazy to argue, so I just casually replied, "You already said that, I know. Don't worry, I'm not angry." Su Menglin still thought I was being childish. We grew up together, and now he's alone in this city, and he's injured. I had to take care of him. I nodded, replying nonchalantly, "Okay." Su Menglin stared at me intently, as if she had countless things to say. But in the end, she just sat on the sofa, looking at me with disappointment. "You're really being a downer. I have so much to deal with every day. Can you please not drain me with this? Be a man. Have some grace." I looked at her, my eyes filled with sincerity. "I'm not draining you. I'm very open-minded. You don't need to explain. I'm not angry." Maybe my gaze made Su Menglin a little flustered. She stopped bringing up the previous topic. She took a watch out of her bag and handed it to me. "I got you a gift." The watch was old. It was the gift Su Menglin gave Song Chung for his birthday last year. Was this recycling? I just said lightly, "Thank you, it's a great gift. I really like it. Just put it on the table." After saying that, I got ready to leave. Su Menglin's eyes flashed with a hint of displeasure and a trace of guilt, but it was quickly replaced by annoyance. "You don't like it? I didn't even look at it." "I like it." Her face was incredibly unpleasant, and she blocked my way. "Where's mine?" I smiled playfully and transferred 10,000 yuan to her via my phone. "Sorry, I forgot to prepare. Go shopping this afternoon. Buy whatever you like." Su Menglin's face was full of disbelief. She didn't expect me to say that. She knew that I had prepared a gift before, and I had prepared it with great care. It's been 5 years, and we had long agreed that we would exchange gifts on our anniversary. Once we reached 5 gifts, we would end this contract marriage and become a real couple. Therefore, for the past 5 years, I would go to great lengths to prepare gifts. I never forgot, and neither did she. The atmosphere turned icy. I had no interest in arguing or explaining. I put on my shoes and prepared to go out. Su Menglin called out to me from behind. "Where are you going?" Without turning my head, I casually said, "There's a company dinner. I have to go." After saying that, I gently closed the door and left. I was completely calm throughout, making Su Menglin very uncomfortable. In the past, Su Menglin was the center of my life. I would push back all social engagements for her, just so she could have a hot meal when she got home. This made my business partners a little unhappy, thinking I was just a hands-off manager. Now, I'm back to normal. Chapter 2. Tonight's social engagement was important, a major client. Afterward, All my partners looked at me with a different kind of gaze. It's not easy, finally seeing the light. We thought you'd become a house husband after getting married. This is how it should be. A man's career comes first. I just kept nodding. Don't worry, everyone, the company is my lifeblood. I had to be present at this kind of event. After getting together with Su Menglin, I gave up so much, almost to the point of handing over the company I built with my own hands. Thinking about it now, how foolish. Just as I reached the bottom of the stairs, my phone rang. It was Su Menglin. She had returned the money. If she doesn't want it, she doesn't want it. It's up to her. When I entered the house, Su Menglin wasn't asleep. She was sitting on the sofa, still wearing the same clothes from this morning. This made me feel a little dazed, as if this woman had changed her personality. She looked at me, drunk, and without getting up, scanned me from head to toe, and smiled sarcastically. Yishwanka, are you jealous? Just say it, and I'll comfort you. You just want me to say a few soft words, don't you? Beg me. I didn't even have the desire to speak. I took off my clothes and prepared to shower. But she wasn't ready to let me go, and said righteously, I hate the smell of alcohol, you know that. Even if you're trying to anger me, there's no need to use this method. It will only make me dislike you more. My relationship with Song Chung isn't what you think. I've explained it many times. Don't make a fuss about these things. Do you want to continue living together or not? My head was throbbing, and I had no energy to argue. I explained in an LY. You're overthinking. There was a major client at the company. I had to go entertain them. It's business, you know. But she thought I was still lying. Her face turned ugly, a sign that she was about to get angry. That's enough. I've already apologized. What more do you want? You'd better be sensible. You were really out of line today. I looked at this woman, without a ripple of emotion in my heart. Was I out of line just by telling the truth? What about her leaving for days, staying at a male friend's house? Was that supposed to make me proud? But I had no interest in arguing and nodded casually. I understand. If there's nothing else, I'll go to sleep. I gently pushed Su Menglin, who was blocking my way, aside. I didn't control my strength well, and my feet slipped. Before she could come to help me, I had already entered the bathroom. Right now, I don't like her touching me. The next morning, Su Menglin didn't say a word, just stared straight at the dining table, where the gift I had thrown away was placed. I didn't know what she was thinking, and I wasn't interested. After washing up, I went to work. Chapter 3. The company has now reached a bottleneck in its development. To grow bigger and stronger again, it must open up overseas markets, but the right person for the job has always been a problem. Previously, I never considered it. I'm not an ambitious person. Everything was for Su Menglin. Even when people called me a house husband, I just smiled. Now, I'm basically volunteering. I am indeed the best candidate. I'm familiar with the company's business and can make decisive decisions. Everyone quickly agreed. The brothers who started the business with me were silent when they saw my decision. After a long while, one of them spoke. What about your wife? Are you taking her with you? I smiled. No, I'll soon be a single nobleman. I'm alone in this strange city, striving for success. Besides my dreams, all I had was Su Menglin. I used to think that Su Menglin was my everything. Now my everything doesn't include her. Before I even opened the door, I saw Su Menglin opening it and walking out. She was wearing delicate light makeup and a beautiful slip dress that accentuated her figure. She was carrying a delicate cake. I shrugged. Her birthday is the same day as Song Chang's. When they were little, their families even joked about arranging a childhood engagement. Later, the two of them made an agreement to celebrate their birthdays together every year. Naturally, she was going out to celebrate. She was on the phone, her eyebrows dancing with excitement. Oh, how could I forget our agreement? If it weren't for what happened later, we might even be married. Wait for me. I'm coming soon. I don't know what Songqing said, but Su Menglin was smiling happily, a smile I hadn't seen in a long time. Once upon a time, that smile would make my heart flutter. When she saw me, her smile faded. She was completely obedient to Song Chung, but she refused to give me any tenderness. Her eyes were cold when she looked at me, as if I was the one preventing her from pursuing happiness, her lifelong enemy. I didn't bother with her. She was just afraid that I would stop her from celebrating Song Cheng's birthday. This kind of thing used to happen often, and every time, Song Chung was the trigger. Every time, the result was that I had to give in, apologize humbly, and prepare a gift. Any slight dissatisfaction from her would be a catastrophe for me. I wanted to cling to her. I was just a lovesick puppy. But now my heart has long been frozen into an iceberg, and she no longer has any power to stir up waves within me. Chapter 4. Lying in bed, bored and scrolling through my phone, I saw Song Cheng's Weibo post. Though time flies, we remain as we were. The top comment was from Su Menglin's best friend. Childhood sweethearts are the true destination of happiness. Basically, all of Su Menglin's friends were singing their praises. In their eyes, I was the outsider, the obstacle preventing Su Menglin from pursuing happiness. It's just that no one ever mentioned that when Su Menglin's family faced difficulties, I was the only one who stepped up to help her without hesitation. Maybe in their eyes, I was the despicable one, leveraging kindness for my own gain. Su Menglin also commented, "I really wish to meet the best you at the right time, in the right place." I looked at their show of affection expressionlessly. I swiped past it uninterested. Before, I had tirelessly reminded Su Menglin to keep her distance from Song Cheng. After all, we were married, and it was better to be mindful. Su Menglin's friends constantly mocked me, saying I was just insecure, that only an overwhelming desire for control could give me a sense of security, and that I was a disgusting, controlling man. Su Menglin agreed with this assessment and would always throw a tantrum. Once, when Su Menglin came home drunk, she saw me sleeping and angrily pushed me awake. She questioned me loudly. "Yi Xuanke, are you even a man? Your wife is out late at night, and you don't even go to pick her up? Look at other people's husbands. They're always waiting downstairs early. Do you even have me in your eyes?" Chapter 5. I watched her in silence, just quietly watched her rant. In the past, when this happened, I would call her incessantly, wait for her downstairs early, and what did I get in return? She said it herself. "I didn't marry you to be imprisoned. If you have psychological problems, I can recommend a doctor." She even, upon seeing me come to pick her up, directly blocked me and then stayed out all night. Now I give her freedom, and yet she questions me. But I have no desire to argue. I just coldly replied, "Don't you always not come back, every year? What's there for me to worry about when you're with Song Cheng? Could he have ulterior motives? Besides, you've blocked me, so I don't even know where you are." A flash of embarrassment crossed Su Menglin's eyes. She just then remembered that, in order to prevent me from disturbing her, she had long blocked me. Whether it was on Moments or Weibo, I was just an outsider. But she quickly concealed it in her eyes. "I know you can see it. Don't overthink it." Before I could even speak, she continued to explain, "You know, Song Cheng and I have an agreement. It's just for a birthday. If we wanted to be together, there would be no place for you. Don't overthink." I nodded in understanding. "I know." Su Menglin fell silent. She stared at me intently, as if trying to see through to my true thoughts. After a long while, she gave up on this meaningless act. She wanted to come over and kiss me on the lips as compensation for today. But I stopped her. I said lightly, "I'm tired." Chapter 6. Su Menglin was stunned. She had never imagined I would do such a thing. She looked into my eyes and finally, angrily slammed the bedroom door shut. I didn't care what she was thinking. I slept soundly. Early the next morning, a business partner called. He had organized a gathering tonight regarding my trip to the neighboring city to expand the market, and I had to attend. The company's development over the years has relied heavily on his support, and he was also fully supportive of this expansion. Unexpectedly, Su Menglin also arrived in the evening. She came with Song Cheng. Of course, Song Cheng's company also had business dealings with this partner. I just didn't expect Su Menglin to go to such lengths for him. She hated it most when I went out for social engagements. After seeing me, Su Menglin's eyes showed a rare hint of panic, and she seemed to want to say something to me, but I simply ignored her. They were so loving, I'd better not make a fool of myself. Song Cheng, after seeing me, was first taken aback, then smiled provocatively. Immediately, his expression returned to its usual humble demeanor, and he said to me, "I couldn't refuse Mr. Zhao's invitation. I'm not good with words, so I had to ask Menglin to come and help." Chapter 7. Su Menglin tried to explain several times, but the words never left her lips. I politely raised my glass in a toast from afar. "I don't mind. I'll leave all the arrangements for tonight's gathering to President Zhao." I took a sip of wine and stopped looking at them. During the meal, Su Menglin kept sending me messages. I'm just here to introduce him to a few friends. Don't overthink it. If you're unhappy, I'll definitely be more careful in the future. Let's go home together after dinner. I smiled sarcastically and casually replied, no need. President Zhao and I have other matters to discuss. The messages kept coming. It was really annoying, so I simply turned off my phone, and it finally became much quieter. Throughout the dinner, everyone enjoyed themselves. They were all friends who had cooperated for many years, and the vast majority were very familiar with each other. President Zhao was especially happy. He raised his glass and came over. Xiao Yi, I know your capabilities. After all these years, except for being a little too family-oriented, you're absolutely flawless. Now that you've finally changed, we can join forces and secure the market share in Lin City. Come, I'll toast you. Consider it a farewell drink. I smiled genuinely, raised my glass, and drank it all. At this moment, Su Menglin stood there stunned, as if she had heard some unbelievable news. Chapter 8. Mr. Zhao, what did you just mean? Yi Xuanke is going to Lin City. Su Menglin smiled awkwardly, thinking Mr. Zhao was in a good mood and joking around. Haha, Xiao Yi finally saw the light. He's about to lead a team to Lin City to develop the market. Today is a farewell dinner. It'll be hard to get him out for drinks after this. I say, Xiao Su, why are you so concerned about this? Do you have a crush on Xiao Yi? Let me tell you, this guy is married and very much in love. He keeps his wife well hidden, so don't get any ideas. Mr. Zhao didn't know about my relationship with Su Menglin and thought she was just curious. Su Menglin's eyes filled with tears after hearing this. She excused herself to go to the restroom and called me out. I looked at her quietly, without saying a word. She couldn't hold it in any longer and asked, her voice choked with tears, when was this decided? Why didn't you discuss it with me? Do I even matter to you? Her eyes were full of confusion, and maybe even fear. I replied indifferently, oh, you mean that? When I made the decision, you weren't home, and I never had the chance to tell you. My voice was full of detachment, as if what I was talking about had nothing to do with Su Menglin. Su Menglin's face was flushed. She looked embarrassed, but still summoned the courage to say, we are husband and wife. You should have told me about such a big thing, even if it was just a text message. I nodded and responded perfunctorily, got it. I'll keep that in mind in the future. I was actually a little surprised by Su Menglin's attitude. I used to love sharing every detail of my life with her, but she was always impatient. So troublesome. Don't tell me about your things anymore. Now, she seemed to remember something and sighed. How long will you be gone? Do you need me to go with you? I didn't want to lie to her, but this wasn't the place to talk, so I had to tell a white lie. Maybe a year or two, maybe 3 or 4. You're busy with work too, so you don't need to accompany me. Originally, I planned to tell her about this at the very end, but today was an accident. Su Menglin exclaimed, that long? Can't someone else go? I shook my head, and the atmosphere became strangely quiet. Su Menglin suddenly sighed. She looked at me, very seriously. Let's go home. I miss you. After saying this, Su Menglin looked at me expectantly. Before I could think of a good reason to refuse, Song Chung came out of the private room, cried out, and fell to the ground. Su Menglin rushed to help him up. Her petite frame was pressed against the wall by Song Chung, creating a very ambiguous scene. Su Menglin glanced at me cautiously, trying to push Song Chung away, but she couldn't break free. She explained nervously, he seems to have sprained his ankle. We have absolutely never crossed any boundaries before. I nodded indifferently. Yeah, pure friendship. Song Chung looked at her with a pained expression and pleaded, Xiao Lin, I can't walk. Please take me home. Chapter 9. He leaned his head on Su Menglin's shoulder. It wasn't that serious, just a simple fall. He was just doing this to mark his territory. But Su Menglin fell for it. Everyone had been drinking, and I could smell the alcohol on his breath from so far away. Yet, Su Menglin didn't mind at all. I remember, every time I drank, I'd be nagged for ages. It seems like this kind of thing depends on the person. She looked at me, not responding to Song Chung. I'll have a friend take him. Wait for me. Hearing this, Song Chung protested. He held on to Su Menglin, leaning his whole weight on her, the movement practiced and familiar. My greatest pleasure is to help others achieve their wishes. If I didn't satisfy them now, there would definitely be a fight later. It wasn't worth it. No need. He can't do without you. Don't worry about me. Without waiting for Su Menglin's response, I said goodbye to President Zhao and the others. Su Menglin called after me, but I didn't respond. She wanted to catch up, but Song Chung held her tightly. President Zhao's driver gave me a ride. I sat in the car, gazing at the street scenes in a daze. As I watched, my heart, which I thought was frozen, began to ache faintly. Perhaps it was because these streets were where Su Menglin and I had once walked happily. Today, Su Menglin surprisingly reported her itinerary to me. Song Chung can't walk now. I'll take care of him tonight and come home to see you tomorrow. Chapter 10. I found it amusing. If I remember correctly, this is the first time. Before, whenever I dared to ask her what time she would be home, she would definitely get angry. I have my own life. Why are you trying to control me? Do I have to report to you even when I go to the toilet? Remember, we are a contract couple. Every time, I had to put on a smiling face, prepare flowers and gifts to appease her. In the end, I would also be warned not to interfere with her life. I shook my head, pushing those memories out of my mind. I casually replied with a message. Okay. Perhaps sensing my perfunctory attitude, Su Menglin didn't give up and sent another explanation. Hubby, I'm really sorry. I'll take care of him and come back. We are innocent, believe me. I replied with the same message. Okay. I turned off my phone and went straight to bed. I slept soundly that night. I have no interest in guessing whether she should take care of Song Chung or not. Anyway, I've already made my choice. Why should I deceive myself? When Su Menglin came home, I was eating takeout. In the past, she would have looked at me with disdain and then asked me to cook for her. But today, she surprisingly changed. Hubby, let me cook for you. It's not good to always eat takeout. I looked at her in surprise but still shook my head. She was a little flustered, and she couldn't look me directly in the eyes. I'm really sorry about yesterday. His foot was swollen, and he really couldn't move. I sent him to the hospital today, and I rushed back. I don't need to see it to know her guilty conscience, but I'm not interested in exposing it. Thank you for your hard work. Go and rest. Su Menglin's face looked terrible. She probably didn't expect me to be so generous, so indifferent. She made me a cup of tea and tried to find topics under the guise of chatting. But we hadn't chatted together for a long time. We had nothing in common to talk about. It was extremely awkward. Finally, she pursed her lips and issued an invitation. Tomorrow, my best friend Xiaoya's boyfriend is going to propose to her. Will you come with me? Chapter 11. I paused for a moment, but still refused. Before, what Su Menglin hated most was taking me to meet her friends, as if I was so embarrassing that I would make her lose face. She also never gave me any respect in front of her friends, which made them look down on me. Forget it. I have something to do. You go by yourself. Besides, they don't welcome me anyway. After Su Menglin heard what I said, her face stiffened, and she smiled awkwardly. You are my husband. How could they not welcome you? Just come with me. When she spoke, her face was very serious, and there was even a hint of pleading. Before, Xiaoya despised me, saying that apart from having some money, I was no match for Song Chung and anything else. How I wish Su Menglin would stand up for me, even with just a simple sentence. This is my husband. You are not allowed to bully him. It's a pity that she was on the side, agreeing with them. Didn't she know why her friends looked down on me? Wasn't it because she indulged them? I waved my hand and refused again. I'm not free tomorrow. I have to go to the company for a handover. You go by yourself. Su Menglin looked at me in disbelief. She had already softened, yet I still refused. But I really wasn't lying to her because the departure time was very tight, and I had to go to the company tomorrow for the handover. After all, I won't be coming back, and there are many things that still need to be clarified. A flash of disappointment passed through her eyes. Suddenly, as if she remembered something, she stood up frantically. Chapter 12. I thought it was probably about the gift I threw away. My inexplicable generosity. The fact that I was preparing to leave without telling her. She seemed to realize that I might really leave, the kind of leaving where I would never come back. Husband, are you angry? Are you leaving me? Why? Why? You carefully prepared a gift, but you threw it away and lied to me, saying you forgot. Do you know how important it was to me? You clearly don't like me being with Song Chung. So why are you being so generous? Can't you control me a little? You obviously decided to go to Lin City a long time ago. Why didn't you tell me? If Mr. Zhao hadn't let it slip, were you planning to tell me after you boarded the plane? Looking at the hysterical Su Menglin, I sighed. Seeing her red eyes, I decided to make things clear. Yes, you know the anniversary gift is important, but what about you? You casually gave me the birthday gift you gave Song Chung last year. In your eyes, am I only worthy of Song Chang's cast-offs? You know I don't like you getting too close to him. And what happened? Occasional gatherings developed into staying out all night, and finally, you could go and accompany him on our wedding anniversary. Does this kind of thing need me to control? Shouldn't you know better? And you guessed wrong about Lin City. I wasn't planning to tell you at all. I figured you wouldn't even remember you had a husband like me for a year or two. Perhaps my words were too sharp, and Su Menglin panicked, completely panicked. She cried and tugged at my sleeve, her voice choked with sobs. I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. It was all my fault. I'll change. I'll definitely change. I shook off her arm. Su Menglin, look. You know you shouldn't have. It's too late now. Let's get a divorce. After I finished speaking, the temperature in the air dropped to freezing. Su Menglin immediately knelt on the ground and hugged my leg tightly. Husband, I was wrong. Give me another chance. I will never agree to a divorce. Husband, let's talk properly. I can do everything you said. Let's not get divorced, okay? Looking at Su Menglin's performance, I asked doubtfully, isn't it good to get a divorce? Doesn't this fulfill your relationship with Song Chung? It saves you from being in this awkward situation. Tears streamed down her face. No, I admit, I did cross some boundaries with him, but I really don't love him. I only love you. Seeing that I remained silent, she bit her lip and said resolutely, Husband, I know, the obstacle between us is Song Chung. I'll break up with him right now, and I'll never contact him again. Just don't mention divorce again, okay? Her eyes were filled with pleading and anticipation. She pleaded with me for a whole hour, and my heart wasn't made of ice after all, so I gave her another chance. Su Menglin, since you've said so, I'll give you a chance, one last chance. From now on, you completely cut off contact with Song Chung, and we might still have a chance. I hope you won't regret the choice you made. She immediately agreed, and I couldn't figure out what this woman was thinking. It was ironic that the obstacle that had always stood between us was so easily abandoned by Su Menglin. No matter how much I pleaded or gave her the cold shoulder before, she never broke it off, and it even escalated. Hearing my request, Su Menglin was stunned for a moment, then agreed ecstatically. Okay, I'll call him right now. To show her determination, she put him on speakerphone. Song Cheng's voice on the other end of the phone was very lazy. Menglin, missing me already? Chapter 13. Song Cheng's words caused a flicker of panic across Su Menglin's face. Chenga, don't joke with me. Please keep your distance from me in the future. It's best we don't see each other again. After all, I'm a married woman. Song Chung was momentarily stunned by her words, but his usual disdain quickly resurfaced. Xiaolin, what are you saying? Is that contract husband of yours trying to control you again? He continued, how many times have I told you not to give him an inch? He's just pathetic. Listen to me. Give him the cold shoulder for a month. Make him beg you on his knees. He pressed on. He'll crack within a week, crying and begging for your forgiveness. Then, in front of all your friends, humiliate him. Put him in his place, so he'll obey you from now on. With each word from Song Chung, Su Menglin trembled, casting pitiful glances in my direction. I could only imagine the kind of advice they usually exchanged. It's no wonder our relationship was strained. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, Su Menglin shrieked, stopping him mid-sentence. Enough, Song Chung. Listen to me. I'm married, and I have no intention of getting divorced. From now on, I don't want to see or hear any words or actions that belittle my husband, damage my family, or cause misunderstandings. She declared, please don't contact me again. Let's just forget each other. With that, she hung up. Song Chung, that persistent pest, continued calling, but she didn't answer. Finally, she switched off her phone completely. Then, she looked at me with an ingratiating expression. Husband, you heard me. I've broken things off with him. From now on, I'll be a good wife and mother. I'll never betray our family, okay? I nodded. If she could keep her word, perhaps we could still make things work. Remember what you said? If this happens again, there's no other option but divorce. Chapter 14. The next morning, Su Menglin woke up early to make me breakfast. I felt a little unaccustomed. After all, for so many years, her only responsibility had been to be beautiful. After eating, I drove to the company, and Su Menglin went to Xiaoya's engagement party. Just as I finished the handover work and picked up my phone to scroll through Weibo, I saw Xiaoya's boyfriend kneeling on one knee, holding a diamond ring and proposing. The moment the ring was put on, they kissed, and the scene reached a climax. Su Menglin's friends, unaware of what had happened the day before, were still teasing her about Songcheng. Xiaoya smiled and said to Su Menglin, "Xiaolin, you have to seize your own happiness." Su Menglin shook her head, looking uneasy. Seeing all this, I wasn't angry. I couldn't expect her to have no friends. Those ingrained prejudices would naturally disappear once we left this city. It wasn't until noon the next day that Su Menglin returned, dragging her exhausted body. I didn't ask her anything, just sat on the sofa and said, "If you can't do it, don't agree. Let's get a divorce." Su Menglin's eyes were red as she explained, "Honey, Xiaoya and the others were having too much fun yesterday, so we sisters just slept at the hotel. We really didn't do anything." I threw my phone. There was a photo on it of Su Menglin lying in Songcheng's arms, her face flushed. She was wearing the same clothes as yesterday. This woman, she cheated on me right after agreeing to be faithful. The photo was sent by Songcheng. I knew it was revenge, an attempt to destroy our relationship. But what couldn't be changed was that the photo was real, and Su Menglin had still cheated. Chapter 15. Su Menglin's tears kept pouring out, soaking a part of her clothes. I used to be absolutely reluctant to let her shed a single tear. Now I just watch quietly. This woman has no self-respect and is not worth my emotional investment. She looked at me, choking, her face full of unwillingness. "Husband, I was set up yesterday. They got me drunk and threw me onto Songcheng's bed. By the time I was sober, it was too late. Husband, give me one more chance, one last time. Let's leave here, cut off contact with everyone, and I'll go with you to struggle and lynching." I knew there was definitely something going on here. Su Menglin, such a proud woman, to be able to do that yesterday, must have been truly sincere. But I couldn't accept what happened last night. Su Menglin saying she would accompany me to Lincheng was also a big decision. After all, she had been working hard here for almost 10 years. If she left with me, everything would have to start all over again. "Su Menglin, let's end it here. I told you, yesterday was your only chance, and you wasted it. It wasn't my fault, but my heart ached unbearably." Su Menglin looked up at me, speechless for a long time, her eyes filled with helplessness, like an abandoned kitten. "Husband, is there really no room for reconciliation?" After I nodded, the air fell silent again. She sobbed. Su Menglin hugged me. At this moment, her feelings were absolutely genuine. "Husband, I love you. Take me away. Let's go to a place where no one knows us, okay?" I pushed Su Menglin away. "Su Menglin, stop struggling. You don't really love me in your heart. You're just used to me taking care of you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have gotten drunk with your best friend and personally ruined your last chance. We are not from the same world. Let's let each other go." Su Menglin cried until she lost her voice, firmly refusing to divorce, wanting to leave here with me. I ignored her, picked up my clothes, and left. As I was leaving, I took one last look at Su Menglin. Her still beautiful face was flushed from crying. I went straight to the airport. Originally, if it hadn't been for yesterday's events, I should have been leaving with her today. Perhaps, in my life, she was destined to be just a passerby. Just before boarding the plane, I sent her a message. "I've already drafted the divorce agreement. Just sign it and mail it to me. It doesn't matter if you don't sign it. We have a contract marriage. The prenuptial agreement clearly states that after 5 years, if both parties do not agree to continue, it will automatically be dissolved." In Lincheng, I worked desperately, working overtime desperately just to forget her. Leaving was painful for her, and it was no different for me. But a good horse doesn't eat the grass it left behind. We can't go back. A year later, I suddenly received a package. Inside was the divorce agreement and a letter personally written by Su Menglin. I know I was wrong, terribly wrong. My rebellious period in youth lasted too long, and I met the wrong people. Hurting you, I broke our original promise. After you left, I thought a lot. I recalled every bit of our time together, and I revisited the path we walked together. I'm sure that I love you. I completely broke up with Songcheng. I haven't contacted him since that incident. I rarely contact even Xiaoya and the others. But I know it's all too late. You will never tolerate me or forgive me again in this life. Maybe there are only two things I could do for you. The first is to divorce you, to completely give you back your freedom. The second is to wait for you. I will spend my whole life waiting for your forgiveness. Yishwanka, I love you. Seeing this, my tears flowed out unconsciously, wetting the letter. We just met at the wrong time, in the wrong place. Goodbye, my former love.